Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Yusuf here from Dental Reviews and I hope you are all well. Now, in today's video, we're looking at another set of loupes, and it's one from a company called the Loupes Company, which from what I understand have had some changes recently because previously they were the Student Loupes Company and now they are the Loupes Company. They also have some affiliation with Bright Dental. However, they have explicitly told me that they are a separate company. Now, who are they? So they offer more budget-friendly option when it comes to loupes. So they're a bit more cost-effective, and of course that is a good thing because it's nice to see companies offering loupes which are more competitive in price, which in turn drives up the competition and encourages all the companies to produce better quality products. So that's good. So it's nice to see. However, one of the things I was a little bit apprehensive about was the performance of the loupes, because whenever you buy a budget-friendly option of anything, you're always a little bit worried about how the quality is. So that's one of the things I wanted to test out in this video, and I will discuss that, so make sure you stay around for that. There are a few sayings: buy cheap, buy twice, or only rich people can afford to buy cheap things, which is true to some degree, but whether or not they are true and relevant to this loupe, I'll let you know. So the Loupes Company also offer next day delivery, which is really cool because I'm sure that there's people that have had some hiccups. They've got a big case coming up, and loupes have broken, the day before, even 2 days before. So it's nice to have that option, particularly here in the UK, on an urgent basis. So that's nice. It's also more relevant for particular groups of people, for example, students, or let's say people sitting their ORE examination. They just need a set of loupes to help them get through that. They may not necessarily have the funds to spend, thousands and thousands on expensive loupes, because, for example, the ORE exam is already very expensive. It's nice that there are more cost-effective options. Another thing that's really nice is that on the website, when you're browsing it, they actually tell you how much the loupes are, which I know is a really simple thing, but I really do appreciate that when dental companies do that, because there's way too many dental products and loupes, for example, that you have to inquire about to get the price. It's just nice to be able to go on the website and see how much something costs. So I had a discussion with them, and I've gone for the 4x prismatic loupe. The reason that I did that is because if you watched my previous video, you would have seen me review the Q-Optic loupes, which in my opinion are the standard when it comes to ergonomic loupes. So I wanted to see how a budget option compares to them. Now, I wouldn't expect it, of course, to match them. However, my findings were quite interesting. Now, the loupes got delivered in good time, and the communication is really good, so that's nice to see. With regards to the unboxing experience, I mean, it wasn't anything too exciting. I do appreciate, as I said, it is a budget option, so I wasn't expecting too much. So the box is relatively simple. However, it does come with all the bits that you would need. What I would say is that the depth of where the loupes would sit, it seems that it's quite shallow, and there's already some indentations on the floor of the box, so there's probably some pressure on the loupe. Now, of course, I haven't tested this long term, but it is something worth noting, and I'm sure that they can maybe design a box that has slightly bigger depth just to protect the loupes a little bit more. However, everything else seems to fit really well, and they include all the other bits and bobs that you would need. For example, the screwdrivers, the microfiber cloth, the USB-C cable, and the charger brick, which is really nice. Now, I wanted to test out the bright light with this specifically, the halo light, and I will touch on that because it is actually a really, really good unit. It's a really effective headlight. What I like about the battery itself, although it's a little bit weighty, which really isn't a problem because you'll probably end up putting it in your pocket or your scrub top, it feels really good in the hand. It's solid. And the main feature is, of course, you can charge it using USB-C, which is super handy considering so many products now are charged with the USB-C. So all you need is one cable inside your surgery. You'll be able to charge your phone, this charger, even like the Godox ring flashes. Now some of them are charged with USB-C. So it's really handy that it's USB-C, so I appreciate that. And the cable's really solid, so you shouldn't have to worry about that breaking. Now, touching a little bit more about the light from Bright Dental, it is a really solid piece of equipment. The light gets very, very bright, and it's really nice when it's completely illuminating your field of view. You can completely see everything, so it's really nice to have that. I also really like the swivel and the filter that they have. It's a lot better than the typical orange filters that we get with lights. The composite's a bit easier to work with when it's not completely orange, so I personally prefer this type of true filter or true composite filter. It also comes with a head strap, and the head strap from the Loupes Company is actually quite thick, but it's comfortable, so I can't really complain about it too much. However, they also give you an option for the magnetic strap that comes with the Bright Dental loops. So I think that if you've got the option to, I probably would go for the magnetic one. So what was my initial feeling when trying on these loops? Uh, Initially, they felt quite comfortable. The only thing I would say is whenever you get a new pair of loops, one of the most important parts that you need to adjust are the nose pads. So I did have to adjust it a little bit to make sure that it fitted my nose correctly, and then I could see a nice clear image, which it did do. So that took a little bit of time adjusting. But once I figured that out, the image quality from the loops were completely acceptable. In fact, they were quite comparable to other more premium brands, which I was quite surprised about, considering that, as I said, that these are a budget option. I was looking at the magnification from these loops and comparing them to Oroscoptic and the Q Optics 4x mag, and they were all pretty similar, which is quite reassuring to see. And also I tested out the field of view. So I had to figure out a way in which I could test it reliably. So I printed off this bit of graph paper so I could see how the field of view compares to other loops. And in my testing, I could see from about 7.5 centimeters, which is completely acceptable. And I can compare that to the 4x mag on my Q Optics, which was a little bit more. It was around 8.5. So completely more than enough to see, a lot of the teeth when looking through. It doesn't feel restricted. The other thing to bear in mind as well is of the infinity view that you get with some loops. So with these, I wouldn't say it's completely infinity view. You still see a little bit of the blackness inside the barrel, but it isn't a significant amount as you would get, let's say, with the oroscopic eye zooms. Also, another key thing when it comes to ergonomics is the weight. Now, these are relatively lightweight when you've got them on. They don't really feel too heavy on your head, which is good. But they are, of course, heavier than the oroscopic. In fact, these weigh approximately 94 grams with the Bright Dental Light. And I think the Bright Dental Light has quite a significant part in that. That being said, my Q Optics are around 66 grams, so a lot lighter. And for comparison's sake, my oroscopic eye zooms are 106 grams. So there are some differences between them, but I wouldn't say that they feel heavy on the head. Now, another important thing is the declination angle, and I did request for a slightly steeper one just because I like that sort of feel and that ability to look down a barrel of a loop and then change the angle of my neck and still be able to see everything else, and in order for it not to cause too much neck strain. And it seemed to work really well because I didn't have any particular strain on my neck when using them. So I've been using them for a variety of different procedures over the last week. I've been using them quite extensively for exams and other oral surgery bits and bobs, and they've been absolutely fine. I haven't had any major issues using them. As I said, the illumination is good when doing the examination. The field of view is good when I'm doing minor oral surgery, so I was quite happy about that. Also, they didn't fog up too much. There was a little bit of fogging, but not extensive or fogging that hangs around and gets you annoyed and wants you to take off the loop. But this is just a message to all Loupe companies, really. But I really wish that all of them would have a anti-fog coating, because that would make life a lot easier. Because if you've had foggy loopes, you know how frustrating that is. So what's my overall verdict when it comes to these prismatic loupes from the Loupes Company? Are they ones that you should consider, or should you avoid them? In my opinion, personally, I feel that if you are in the market for prismatic loupes and you want a more cost-effective option, then yes, absolutely, I would consider them, and you might even want to get them because, as I said, the quality of the loupe is really, really good. They hold their own completely, comparing them to other loupes. They are relatively ergonomic. In combination with this bright dental light, they are, it's amazing in terms of the illumination. So I can recommend them. But it's also important to understand some of the drawbacks. So as I said, there are some things, because it is a bit more of a budget-friendly option, that you may not necessarily like. For example, the box, for example, could be improved, as I said. And also there are lighter options out there if that's something that you're really interested in. But overall, completely usable for all types of procedures. And if I had to use them for most of my work, I wouldn't have many complaints. Of course, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I didn't expect them to be at the level of the Q Optics when it comes to ergonomics and performance, but they aren't that far off. So if you're in need of some loupes and a more cost-effective option, these are completely viable. So yes, that's my overall verdict of these loops. I hope it's been helpful as always. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to drop them in the comments below and I'll try my best to answer them. I will be reviewing some Galilean loops from the Loupes company as well, so make sure you tune in for that when I release the video, if that's something that you're interested in. In the meantime, I hope you guys stay safe and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.